Foreign Minister, always a pleasure talking to you. This is obviously a big year, 80th anniversary of the UN. As you look back on that history, what are kind of some of the marks along the way? What has the UN been able to accomplish?
Well, it was all about multilateralism. It was all about dialogue, about political and diplomatic solutions to all conflict resolution by peaceful means. It was all about dialogue, coexistence, and of course. Renouncing the use of force in settling differences among different nations. So that was the hope of the United Nations, especially after the devastation of the Second World War. And, it was all about new international system based on, as I mentioned, multilateralism and dialogue. But unfortunately, now on the 80th anniversary of the UN, we are in a completely different picture. We have now unilateralism, unfortunately, polarization, and uh, clear-cut violations of all norms and international law, international humanitarian law, and we are not having only double standard, but hundreds of standards now applied in different conflicts. So it's extremely frustrating, and we need to reinvigorate the UN. We need to go back to the rules-based order. Because as you see now in Gaza, what's happening there is clear violations of basic norms, of basic principles of the UN Charter. You have a country considered itself above the law and has impunity, and to do anything beyond the imagination, crossing all red lines, attacking 7 countries in one time without being punished or paying a price for that. So it's all about now, unfortunately, deviating from the principles enshrined in the UN Charter.
I want to touch on Gaza, but let me just go a little bit deeper on what you're talking about because Chinese President Xi Jinping at the SCO talked about reforming and global governance and basically giving smaller states a larger voice. We heard the Kenyan leader as well addressing this. Reforms are needed. If you were to kind of wave a magic wand, what type of reforms are necessary to change this global
Well,
body?
we must have two sets of reforms in two pillars: political pillar related to peace and security, and the other pillar is related to socio-economic pillar. As for the first one, in the heart is the Security Council, because the Security Council is the main organ of the UN, which is entrusted with the issue of maintaining peace and security in the world, the international peace and security. But unfortunately, now we have undemocratic Security Council giving veto rights for 5 countries. And as you see, we have total paralyzation of the work of the Security Council. So, uh, uh, you know, the veto right is entrusted to those countries, and we have a lot of cases, hundreds of cases, where the whole international community are rallying behind one specific position and resolution, and only one country can use the veto right in order to block and to stop everything. This is one issue with regard the governance of the international system. The second issue is to be more democratic, more representatives, because the current Security Council is not representative. What about Africa? Africa is the uh, very important continent with 52 countries, and of course, the only continent which is going to double its population by 2050. And now we have no, democratic representation of Africa within the Security Council. That's why we have the Azzolini Consensus, which is considering the unified Africa position. So we need to reform the Security Council. We need at least 4 seats to be designated to Africa, 2 permanent seats with all powers, and another 2 non-permanent seat for the Africa continent. This is one issue. On the other issue, on the economic front, we have those Bretton Woods institutions like World Bank, IMF, and others. They are not democratic as well, and we have lack of democratic representation of developing countries. This is one issue, and the second issue, there is no single mechanism now with regard dealing with the issue of debts, especially for the medium income countries. You know, we have only for low income, but there is no mechanism on dealing with the issue of debts, as well as the issue of finance. You know, the finance of development and the climate finance as well. Those are 2 important issues, and we don't have for African countries, for developing countries, enough accessibility to concessional finance through the different Bretton Woods institutions. So those are the 2 main pillars for the reform of the whole international system, international organization, one dealing with security and peace issues, which is entrusted in the Security Council, and the other one is related to the Bretton Woods institution.
It's interesting you brought up Gaza. I want to get your thoughts on Netanyahu getting ready to give his address. We heard, please order in the hall, order in the hall. We saw the walkout, striking imagery. I think when people look back on this UN General Assembly, that's going to be one of the lasting images. Your thoughts?
This is, you know, a reflection of the anger among people all over the world. It's shameful for the international community to watch what's happening in Gaza. You have man-made starvation and famine. You have systematic killings of Palestinians. You have a UN independent committee which is describing the situation in Gaza now as a genocide. So
And do you see it as that?
of course, absolutely. And if you have a minimal needs of the people in Gaza, at least to have 800 trucks per day, and the Israelis are allowing maximum 100 trucks per day and closing all crossing connecting Israel with Gaza, even closing the Rafah crossing from the Palestinian side. This is, of course, outrageous, and it's shameful for the international community to accept that without intervening, without imposing specific measures on the Israeli government in order to stop such kind of clear violation of international humanitarian law.
I saw protests out in front of our hotel today. What if there were your children that were there in Gaza? So many people, so angry. We see the anger actually at the UN General Assembly. What's it going to take to actually see this suffering end?
Well, we need, of course, this anger to be translated into specific policies to pressure the Israeli government to change the course in Gaza, to stop the killings, to stop the artificial starvation of the people in Gaza. So we have some hope with President Trump. You know, he met with leaders, some leaders from the Arab world and from the Islamic world. And he sounds committed to stop this aggression and this war against the Palestinians. So we are hopeful that President Trump will deliver, and he has his own vision points with regard ending the war and talking about the day after and lifting all impediments which is hindering the flow of humanitarian aid and medical aid into the people of Gaza, and to talk also about the reconstructions of Gaza. What was important that President Trump, during this meeting, he said he's going to be against annexation of the West Bank, and this is important. And he said that he will implement a Marshall Plan in Gaza, and keeping people in Gaza, and allowing those who left their homeland to come back if they like to do that.
I know you're pressed for time. I have to ask one final question. The special relationship between Egypt and China, and not just Egypt and China. You mentioned the African continent, China's relationship with the entire continent. Can you describe that for us?
Well, we are happy, and of course, we are honored that it was Egypt, the first Arab country to recognize the People's Republic of China in 1956. We are proud that we are the first country in the region to recognize China in 1956, and of course, we have commemorated the 10th anniversary of the strategic partnership between Egypt and China. We value this partnership. We value the Chinese investment in Egypt and Chinese business in Egypt, and the relationship between the two leaders of Egypt and China, just perfect. And of course, we have the political will to further enhance this cooperation, and we have directions from the two leaders to do more and more with regard, of course, further deepening and enhancing trade, investment. We are happy that there is a Chinese industrial park in the Suez Canal Economic Zone by TIDA, which is doing amazing job with 178 companies, but we need to double them because we have a very conducive environment for investment in Egypt, and we have a special status for the Suez Canal Economic Zone. So the Chinese companies, they are using this conducive environment in order to produce and to export outside Egypt, and even to sell their products in the domestic market. But we have huge potentials, and we can do more and more. And we are looking for doubling the Chinese investment in Egypt, and localizing some specific industries such as electric vehicles, electric batteries, and the solar panels for the production of electricity through solar parks. So sky the limit for the cooperation between the two great nations. We are two great nations with their long history, and two big civilizations. So I believe that we can do more and more, and we can make use of this long and strong historical relationship as as a solid basis in order to do more in investment, in trade, and to achieve mutual interest of the two great nations and two great people.
For Mr. Abdelatty, thank you so much for your time. I know it's you don't have much of it. You're always on the go this week in New York, so we certainly appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. On to this.